Hey guys, what is up? It is your boy Cool Titanium 68 back at it again with a new YouTube video. Today we're giving you a huge update on what's going on with my hometown airport, Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, right after this. So before we start off, I hope you guys like and subscribe down below. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. And welcome to an inaugural episode of Airports Post-COVID. So last time I talked about this airport was way back at the end of 2018 when American Airport Expansion Series started. I'd originally started that series since, at the time, almost every major airport in the US was in the works of expanding, so they were ready for the next 10 years. But as COVID-19 came around and wreaked havoc over the world through most of 2020, these plans haven't really gone anywhere. When the first American Airports expansion video debuted with Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, there were rumors that DFW would be getting a 6th terminal, and it's actually been going on for about 5 or so years. This was all because right at around 2020, we were supposed to be getting 70 million passengers through DFW in 2020. Well, this was way underestimated, of course, like everything else in the past 5 or so years, and in 2019, we hit 74 million passengers. Now, at the beginning of 2019, the president of the airport, Sean Donahue, announced in conjunction with American Airlines that they would reopen and renovate the satellite terminal off of Terminal E. American Airlines would update the satellite terminal and also add another 2 gates, which would bring it up to 15 because at the time it had 13. And this would add an additional 100 daily flights to American Eagle's schedule that opened up actually back in May of 2019. At around this time, they announced that they would also add an additional 4 gates to the south side of Terminal D, so they'd add like a little 4-gate stinger. For the design of Terminal D, it looks like it's just like a big rectangle, and then they've got a section going up into Terminal B that connects to it, and they were building another section coming down for Terminal D, where in reality it's actually a semicircular terminal, but it looks like a rectangle so that there's more space inside for amenities and that sort. With DFW adding a lot of flights, thanks to some new flights coming in from Japan, it kind of made sense that DFW had added some of these gates. Also around the same time, the Terminal E satellite opened up, which is about May, maybe a month earlier in April. DFW announced with plans of adding a new 24-gate terminal next to Terminal D, which is also across the highway from Terminal E. It's at the parking lot that's just south of Terminal D and across the highway from Terminal E, where they've got all of the Skylink bridges, but there's nothing there. In conjunction with announcing a 6th terminal, which would probably be named Terminal F, because when we think of that, they would also renovate Terminal C, which of course it's between A and E on the east side of International Parkway. Both that and Terminal F would be a combined total of $3.5 billion. The whole project would cost more than double the amount of when they built Terminal D back in 2005 at a cost of $1.7 billion, even though it'll probably take about the same time to design and build a new terminal. The reason why it's going to be a lot more money is because even though designing Terminal C may be $700-800 million at most, maybe $1 billion, it's going to cost probably maybe $2.5 billion to do Terminal F, because they're not going to do a normal semicircular terminal. They're probably going to do something different. I don't know what it was. They were planning on doing it. Sadly, 2020 would also become a different story. The first 2 months of the year, everything was going on as usual. But once COVID-19 pretty much canceled 2020 in March for the US, the airline industry crashed as the United States was pretty much closed. During this time, DFW Airport announced that Terminal F and Terminal C plans would be on hold as COVID-19 was halting the airline industry. Currently, the airport is reassessing when the best time would be to go on with these plans. DFW Airport will be in limbo through June as businesses started to open up and air travel started picking back up. It wasn't really that much though, but it was still kind of picked back up. American Airlines at this time would also restructure its major hubs so that they're most profitable. With this in mind, American Airlines actually decided to move its Asian hub from LAX to DFW. This was because it's actually more profitable to fly out of DFW than it is out of LAX, and a lot of Japanese companies have started building offices in the Dallas-Fort Worth area because, unlike Los Angeles, you don't have all of these taxes and it's much cheaper to live in DFW. Also, at this time, DFW Airport would be experimenting out new technologies that would bring them into the future, while also simultaneously thinking about COVID in mind. There are things like automated baggage check-in, and there's actually a new one that they're installing where they're putting ultraviolet sea light into their HVAC systems. If you don't know what an HVAC system is, it's pretty much your air conditioning unit, not the one outside, but the big gray box that's hanging inside your attic. And the reason why they put the ultraviolet sea light is that the spectrum that the ultraviolet light is a part of also would disinfect the air. As the air is being circulated, it's also disinfecting, which would help spread the COVID-19 since it's also airborne. As we wrap this video, you may really kind of have a question as to what in the world are they going to be doing now, because I said that they put it on hold and they're thinking about it. But you're probably asking yourself, well, have they thought of anything? Yes, they have. So about a month ago, DFW Airport has decided that they're going to kind of start going into renovating Terminal C. Basically, they're not going to like start redoing the terminal yet. They put in a $75 million bond for a design management project that hopefully is going to help design what Terminal C should look like, but it's probably going to take a little over a year until that will come off the ground. But sadly, with Terminal F, they're probably not going to be happening for the next several years, especially since passenger traffic levels in DFW reached down to 1985 levels. 1985, that's about 11 years after Dallas-Fort Worth opened, and COVID brought it down that much, which I think it pretty much just like slashed the amount of passengers in half. In like 1 year, you've pretty much brought down about almost 35 years worth of passenger growth down the toilet. Sadly, it'll probably be like another like at least 5 years before we'll hear anything more about DFW Airport, especially since everyone's been talking about how it's going to take probably somewhere close to 4 or 5 years before air traffic will be back up to what it was 2 years ago. If it's going to take that long, it's going to be pretty tough. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys did like this new inaugural American Airports post-COVID. I really wanted to try and do this because 2 of my most 3 popular videos are both on these airports, and actually I think most of the top 10 videos are about these airports. So I kind of want to go over what's happening to these plans because we've already got some more in the works. For example, I'll explain this in about 2 weeks, but in New York City, the 3 major airports, they all are either actively involved in or have some sort of expansion plans. JFK, if you guys hadn't seen the video, they have massive expansion plans which pretty much restructure almost the entirety of the airport, but they haven't really started it, so that's kind of in a questionable state right now. Whereas you look at somewhere like LaGuardia or Newark, their construction's already going on, so they pretty much are just going to keep going. We'll talk about that more in 2 weeks on our second episode of Airports post-COVID. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's been a while since I actually made my last video, and I do kind of apologize for that. I think the last video I made was back in December for an English project. So I've done some Minecraft streaming in like February and March, and I know I haven't really done anything recently on Minecraft because we're still in this war and nothing's really happened, and I really can't make a lot of new Minecraft content because I'm getting closer towards the end of the spring semester and I need to study and not play games, yet I'm doing this. But this is fun. I'm really hoping that we can finish school and then get this to work. And before you guys ask, I could technically do Minecraft and record on my MacBook, but I have tried that. If you look at some of my Rocket League videos from 2 or 3 years ago, I actually recorded them off of my phone because I tried doing it off my computer and I was getting like unplayable frames per second. Whereas I could do it on this computer, which is where I'm doing most of the streaming off of, and it would be fine. Just make sure you like and subscribe down below and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos, especially on Aviation Friday videos, because we've got a lot of content coming out.